Bassoon, a band out of New York, and I heard them very recently, and before you know it, I've just consumed this CD and ingested it into my musical brain and wanted to share it right away. I did a review very quickly. I even did an interview with a member of the band, so I'll put a link there if you want to hear me talk to Stuart. Stuart is one of the guys in the band. He's the main songwriter. Stuart Popejoy is the bass player. He also plays keyboards, and he is a prog fan. He back in the old days, like Rush and stuff like that. He grew up on that, Yes, and Rush and stuff. But he's kind of explored a lot beyond those areas of music, and as you'll see in the in his interview with me. Now let's get to the album. They are a trio, and they are drums. Like I said, he's playing guitar and keyboards, and then they have the bass player. No vocals. It is an instrumental band for the time being, anyways. He confided me in that there is a possibility they may end up expanding out and having vocals. But for the moment, they're just instrumental, or instru-metal, as they call it. So it's very hard-hitting when we're talking about what he thinks about as a songwriter as far as influences in prog. Because, of course, we're a prog channel. We love prog here. He mentioned King Crimson and how the hard-hitting Crimson that is, the hardest hitting of Crimson. And certainly they were very hard-hitting as a band. You got to admit that. So this band is very heavy. I would classify them as avant instrumental heavy prog. There's there's some little parts that are even sort of math, if I understand what that even means, math rock, because there's some parts where you're almost thinking mathematically what they're playing, because there's this cool kind of mathematical music going on, so that there is a little bit of that. It's a really refreshing album, but refreshing, let me define what I mean by refreshing. You know, like an elephant who's hot and he's throwing dirt and sand on him. That's refreshing. Or a rhino who's hot and he rolls in the mud. This is the kind of refreshing that this album is. Like I say, it's a bit dark, a bit hard-hitting and heavy. But at the same time, it's not a downer. You know, I'm not a big fan of music that's a downer, that makes you feel depressed and leave your studio room with your stereo sadder than before you put the needle down. You know, I think music needs to be uplifting. I mean, it's okay to get into the areas that are darker and need exploration, but I think you always need to have some kind of a little bit of uplift. And this band does that. I'm not sure if it's a conscious effort on their behalf, but this album really has a nice cohesiveness to it. It's a perfect length CD. It's a little bit longer than an EP. It's a little bit shorter than an LP. I think it's around the half an hour mark, and it just feels like the perfect length. The tracking, the choice of songs from song to song seems perfect. They all feel like they all belong. There's a real interconnection between all the music. It all feels like it was one kind of ball of wax or whatever, one massive session and effort from the band. I actually went and listened to their first album, which was actually 10 years ago. This is their sophomore. I mentioned to Stuart it just didn't seem to have the magic, although, I'm going to give it a little bit more listen, but he admitted that they'd recorded it themselves. This album is more professionally done. They've got some good team players they've got on board to make this a really good album. They've got a great label who's supporting them, Nefarious, which they've introduced me now to this album, or this label, Nefarious. So I'm glad to learn about Nefarious. They seem to be really good at supporting their artists. They have a good roster of artists. So I would also urge you all to check out what else is on their roster, because if they're picking Bassoon, they're going to be picking great band. It's very niche. They're playing to a lot of metal audiences right now on their touring, and they're receiving them really well. People are they're really locking in and hearing that this band is doing something really unique. It does remind me a little bit of ELP when he brings out the keyboards and parts. It reminds me of King Crimson. It also reminds me a little bit of Tool. I think Tool fans would like this. The last track is called Born to Doom, and at that point I really realized, here I am, I've got this reaction channel. I didn't catch that. Of course, there's a bit of a Doom vibe there. Also, they all tune down 2 whole tones, which means their guitars and the basses are tuned down two low C's instead of an E on the low string. It's like a rubber band almost, kind of a, it's almost a slow motion kind of that goes on. It's sort of that's I guess what it's classic doom, as Stuart was telling me in his interview when I was talking to him in that chat. The guitarist is Sean Moran. He's got very nice toned guitar. It's not like Dream Theater kind of oversaturated or super saturated sound. It's a little bit more, in my mind anyways, he's more of a classic hard rock kind of tone, which I really enjoyed. It was tasteful. The drums were John Medham. He's also very, this is cool. Stuart mentioned that the album is done without a click track. I think they should be advertising that. I mean, that in itself is really a rare thing. Their drummer is so precise that they could actually plug in, if they needed to do some edits, even without a click track. They could just go guide by his drumming. Stuart's an interesting songwriter. His compositions, rather than through mere harshness or something, there's compositional tension that's created through the way it's composed, rather than relying on the instruments to bring out certain things. I don't know. It's hard to describe. Check it out. See what you think. I think he's a really a strong songwriter as far as an instrumental songwriter. It's a different bag than writing for lyrics and singing. It's a different approach. They sound big. They sound tight. And Prog Dog Score, me and Prog Dog decided 4 bones out of 5 bones. That's the Prog Dog scoring system. So it's a 4 out of 5 album. We really enjoy it. We're going to go and return to this for sure, time to time. Put it on. It's got its own little universe. Spin this on your platter, because it's got its own little vibe, its own little universe. Unique, heavy, proggy, fun. Not a downer, still uplifting in a way, and interesting, and it'll get your ears satisfied. And yeah, so that's my reaction. Leave my comment below if you're going to check this band out. Come back to the page, leave a comment below what you thought of them. Check them out. Make sure you click on the links. I'll put them below to the band's website. Listen to them on Spotify, and share your wisdom on the bands. Okay, spiraling out. Talk to Joe later. Bye.